What is up, Scrub fam? I am back after a long, eventful, exhausting, amazing, absolutely absurd weekend at GenCon. I apologize for anyone who's reached out to me over the past couple days, and I apologize for my patrons because I was so busy the past 4 days. I didn't get to do as many updates as I wanted to. I didn't get to make any videos. I didn't get to write any articles. All my time was spent enjoying the con as well as getting ready and playing in events and just truly soaking in Gen Con because it's just one of those events that you truly have to enjoy. And I was so happy that the event was held at Gen Con because I always go there anyway, and it's just one of the best experiences to see all of your new and old friends. So, before I get started in this video, before I get started into Winning Edge Episode 3, Gen Con National Qualifier, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to my sponsor, Beer Collectibles. Alec Pastrana is the best shop owner on the planet. He's also the best sponsor on the planet. He's willing to do anything for his customers, anything for his players that play for him as well. If you're looking for the best prices on sealed product, if you're looking for the best prices on Ultimate Box, and you're looking set 5, everything going forward, you're going to want to go through Bearded Collectibles to go ahead and get your sealed product. So I recommend checking out beardcollectibles.com. A link will be down below in the description so you can check out the website as well as where you can find your 3XG hashtag ScrubFam version 2.0 t-shirts. So check those out. Those are online right now. Those are $25. So go ahead and get yourself one if you haven't yet. But anyway, so let's start with weekend. So Thursday, I get in Thursday. I didn't do anything related to Dragon Ball Super aside from go to the Dragon Ball Super booth at Gen Con, and I got to speak to the game developers and designers, which was awesome. We had a really good conversation. They knew who I was. They were like, "Oh yeah, uh, Aaron says you're best, like the best player, best designer." Like it's really funny. Like they were super gracious, wonderful, welcoming to me. They knew who I was. They've heard things about me. They watched my videos. They actually saw 13 Reasons Why, which is pretty amazing. And they also referenced the Mecha Frieza errata and thanked me for the input and the valuable information that I give the community. And then we had a good conversation about Set 5 and the booth and the way the cards looked. And also, it was just wonderful meeting with him and speaking with him in person. So I'm excited to see where that relationship continues to go. But awesome, wonderful meeting them. So that was my Thursday. Was just walking around the con, soaking in the con, doing as much as possible, shopping, buying a ton of My Hero Academia stuff that was there. That show is so hype. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You need to do so. But Gen Con was amazing. First day, all I did was just spend time at the con. So next day we go to Friday. So I'm set to play Blue Yellow SS3 on Friday. I feel like it's well positioned. I feel like Crusher Ball is a card in this meta that does a ton of work, and I wanted to play the deck. And so me and I had other teammates that were on Blue Yellow as well, and we decided to play Blue Yellow SS3. Our lists were maybe a few cards different here and there, but we go into the tournament. Round one, I play against Scott Dashy. Me and Scott, we play to a draw. I win game 3 by deck out because basically I just prevented him from killing me because it was one of those things where I won the dice roll, so I was on the play. And in that matchup as SS3 versus Rudigarn, being on the play is severely disadvantaged. You actually want to be on the draw in that matchup, which I'll go into further when I go into my deck list that actually played in day 2. And so I win game 1, game 2 he wins, game 3 he puts me on the play again, and then essentially we end up going to time. It ends up being a draw. Round 2, I play against a gentleman from PPG. His name is Andrew. We played. He was playing Red Blue SS3. I was playing Blue Yellow SS3. Game 1, I get because I punish him for trying to play Digging Deep on his turn 2. I Crusher Ball it, and then I play a Source of Power. I awaken before him, and then I just outvalue him, and I have him tapped out, dead to rights, put him to 3, put him to 2, put him to 0, and that game ended rather quickly. Game 2, he was a lot more conservative. He played the game incredibly conservative, and that led to the game going a little bit long, but he played it perfectly. He just made me run out of cards and then whittled me down and then ended up winning game 2. And then game 3 we were playing, and essentially we were getting really close on time, and I was now on the back foot. I was defending my life, defending my life, and there was no turn where I could possibly turn the corner, and so I know time is going to be called soon. So I go ahead and concede the match to him because going into his turn, he had just played a foreseeing hit, and he then played a Kefla, and I'm down to 2 cards in hand. So I just went ahead and conceded the match to him since he was going to win, so that we didn't draw it out because time was legitimately called like right after that. So right after he plays the Kefla, I just go, "You got it," and then time is called. So it's pretty insane. So I went in and conceded the match to him to avoid the draw for both of us because that wouldn't have been fair to either of us. And then round 3, I played against Jake Brown. He's playing Hurdigarn Veggies. In game one, he absolutely steamrolled me. There's not a single card in my entire deck that can deal with 6 to 8 veggies on board. So he steamrolled me in game one. Game two, I was like, okay, I know I'm prepared for this. I'll put in removal from sideboard. I'll be okay. I just depending on my draw, my defense, I need some sensu beans. All right, I have a game plan. Well then, game two, I open up black red. And then proceed to get rolled again because my hand is all blue, and so I just get destroyed. So he ends up taking that, and so at this point I'm 0-2-1, and I just decide to end my day. I know a lot of people came to me and said you should just play it out, but honestly at that point I was not invested mentally. I was not in a good state, and I figured it's best for me to separate myself from the event and then try again tomorrow. And so that's what I did. So I separated myself from the event. I went over and played a bunch of games of Fantasy with my friends, just really trying to have a good time, be in a better mood. And of course, I was frustrated because I worked so hard in trying to solve this format and trying to come up with unique decks and trying to, you know, capitalize on certain things in the metagame, and then I just get punished by some things that just didn't go my way. And I just had a bad run, and that happens. And the thing for me that was a big thing was just making sure that I left it in the past going into the next day. And so me playing some games of Fanzy and then playing in the actual Fusion event was wonderful. So I got to spend time with friends. I played Fusion format, which is amazing for Dragon Ball Z, and then so we were good. And then we went out to dinner. We had steak and shake, whatever. We did St. Elmo's, Alec Pastrama. We did that on Thursday. We did St. Elmo's. Alec Pastrama will give you a breakdown on that. But anyway, so we went out steak and shake, had burgers, and then we went to sleep. So then Saturday we get up. And the entire time the day before, I was like stressing about what deck to play because I was, I wasn't going to play blue yellow again. Not because the deck is bad, but just because I didn't want to run it back. And I wanted to, honestly, I just wanted to play the best cards. And so when you play blue yellow, you're not playing the best cards. You're sacrificing the best cards for the tech that you get with yellow. But so that leaves you disadvantaged in some of the matchups where power cards become important. And so I was stuck between mono blue and blue red. And honestly, over and over and over again, I just kept telling myself, Foreseeing Hit is the best card in the game. And Foreseeing Hit is like, it's my favorite card, and it benefits me greatly because I'm the type of player where information to me is king, and I can do so much when I play the game in perfect knowledge. So I erred on the side of blue red. And doing that led to a ton of success, and I'll go over the deck list here in a second. But so day two, I played blue red SS3, and I ended up starting off 4-0, beating a Pan deck, beating SS3 Apes, beating SS3 Mono Blue, and then beating another SS3 Mono Blue. My only two losses were to Trey Faircloth, who was playing Blue Red Hurdigarn, and Marquise, who was also playing Blue Red Hurdigarn. And I know that that matchup isn't favorable, especially when you win the dice roll as SS3. So I was in a losing position from the start, and I really had to hope to get lucky in those matchups just to win. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I ended up losing those rounds back to back. I then go and win my next two, and then so that puts me at 6-2 on the day. Just so you guys are aware, every match that I won every match 2-0. So that wasn't an issue. Every match I played, I won those matches 2-0, and the only times I lost were games where I went to game 3 against Marquise, and then I got 2-0'd by Trey in a round. And so essentially, Blue Red Hurdigarn is a tough matchup for Blue Red, and I knew that going into those matchups, and I knew that going into the tournament itself. But I just knew that SS3 was such a big part of the field, and I knew that me playing SS3 mirrors is, I don't want to say it's free, but I'm heavily advantaged in SS3 mirrors because of my knowledge of the mirror match, because of my playtesting, and because, like I said, when I play a card like Foreseeing Hit, a player like myself, I'm heavily analytical. I read data, I read the board state, and then I figure out the best play to take, whether if it's negating their next turn or going for game, which there's a lot of times where I looked at my opponent's hand and then calculated I could go for a game on that exact turn just based off what they had, and then I ended up going for a game, and then the game didn't even last long. So I ended up going 6-2 on the day, which was good for 11th place. My tiebreakers were really great, so there was a chance I could make top cut, but since people finished at X11, there was no way I could make it at that point. And so I finished at 11th place. And with that, we got my certificate to Nationals. So I am qualified for Nationals. I got it out of the way. I got the monkey off my back because I finished in top 16 at the event. If this would have been like a true regional with an actual top cut, I would have been in cut, which is really exciting. And it was awesome. Just a really great feeling to get this out of the way, get the monkey off my back for you guys, for my supporters, and just be able to continue to elevating my game and continue to help you elevate yours, and then give you that continue giving that insight, that advice, the things you guys are looking for, and then get on the grind of still writing articles, videos as often as possible to keep you guys as informed as I possibly can as this new format unfolds, which I'll be getting to testing. I've already been testing, but I'll continue testing this week. Hopefully, put up some games, additional deck profiles, and then also for my Patreons, I'll be getting into my testing sessions starting this week with all my Patreons that subscribe to the 1337. So look for messages from me in this coming week so we can set up some time to play. We can get you prepared for events this weekend, Otakon in Philly, and then we'll go from there. But anyway, let me go ahead and jump into the deck I played on day 2, give you a full profile, matchup breakdowns, and other things. So this was the deck I played day 2. So I played SS3, and again, a lot of people are like, oh no, you played SS3, like everyone plays SS3. Well, there's a reason why. It's because the deck is good. It is safe. It's a safe choice. And when you're playing an event and you care about the results that you're trying to generate, you want to play something that's going to give you the best possible chance to actually win. To put yourself in a position to win games, to be able to come back from tough situations, and SS3 is a leader that provides that, allows you a lot of flexibility, allows you to play safer, and so I chose to play SS3 again. And I call this Kefla mid-range, mostly because this is definitely a mid-range deck, and at the same time I'm finishing my curve at Kefla, and Kefla is kind of the finisher, quote unquote, because of the way it grinds out games. And then, of course, I play 4 Foreseeing Hits. So we can go over the list real quick. So I play 4 Intensifying Power Trunks. I played 2 Burst Attack Son Gohan, 2 Digging Deep Vegeta. And so a lot of people ask me about this. So before the tournament started, I had originally been playtesting with 4 Digging Deeps, and one of my teammates, they were talking about their split. They were doing 4 Intensifying Power Trunks, 2 Digging Deep in the main, and I really liked that concept. And I was trying to ask them why, and they were just like, well, Self-Awakening in the Rudigarn matchup isn't really a thing, and so Digging Deep is a lot worse in that matchup, and so you'd rather kind of split them as opposed to play 4 of one, 0 of the other, and you want the additional ways to awaken if you play the mirror, and you want to be able to have like those cheap evolve turns, and so that was key in me making the switch, and honestly, it paid dividends all day, especially because it helped me in my sideboarding, because in the SS3 mirror, I would honestly side out 2 Intensifying Power Trunks, side into Digging Deep Vegetas, because Digging Deep is just better in that matchup, because you can pressure the opponent by swinging once, taking 2 life, untapping, swinging with your leader after awakening, drawing a card, and then swinging with the 20k again. So you're putting opponent from potentially 4 to 3, depending on if they combo or not. And that allows you in the SS3 mirrors, whether if it be against red-blue mirror, you can pressure them down, so it makes their Chain Zeno worse if they want to try and Chain Zeno, because they're forced to awaken before they can actually do it. So I really liked the 4-2 split in the main deck. 2 Burst Attacks on Gohan. This was the absolute perfect number in game ones when I was playing against, whether if it was Hirudegarn, whether against SS3. It was I saw this card enough that it overperformed in those games, and it always had its spots. And I'm really glad that I played it at 2 in the main deck because of just how often you want to play this deck on a curve that's relatively consistent and sharp. And so I didn't want to glut myself with 3. So playing 4 Digging Deeps, 4 Burst Attacks. So playing a 2-2 split of these gave me 4 options at the 3-drop spot, which is exactly what you want. And so that just leads to you being able to play your power cards on time, which whenever you're playing an SS3 matchup, you want to be playing your power cards as quickly as possible. So if I played 4 Burst Attacks on Gohans, I'm having to sacrifice slots elsewhere, and that leads to me not being able to play a more powerful card on the turn where I need it. So then we played 3 Chain Attack Trunks, and we also played 3 Zeno. So 3 Chain Attack Trunks felt like, again, I don't want to say this is a perfect number, but it felt great because I never saw it too much. And since the only target in the deck is just Burst Attack and Zeno the Playing God, playing 4 really didn't make sense. Playing 3 felt like the appropriate number and splitting it with your Zeno was perfectly fine. So 3-3 with Chain Attack and Zeno as opposed to 4-2. I felt like I was seeing those those ratios that was really optimal for me. The only thing sometimes is some matchups since Zeno was dead, and be a card that you would either charge or end up top decking to Hirudegarn sometimes. But honestly, having Zeno in the deck is awesome because if you ever charge your energy and your opponent swings to Divine Vanquish or Beerus, you just discard your Zeno. So it worked out really well. 4 Foreseeing Hit. If you ever ask me how many copies of this card you should play in your red mid-range deck with SS3 leader, the answer is 4. You always play 4 Foreseeing Hits. This is the best card, the best battle card in the game. And I know people are going to be like, oh, no, that's not the best battle card. There's so many other cards that are great. Yeah, no, this is the best battle card in the game. looking at your opponent's hand, picking up all that information in the mid to later parts of the game is invaluable. It's going to allow you to pick apart your opponent's next turn, pick apart their defense, whatever you need to do to be able to get up on tempo and continue forwarding your own game plan. Foreseeing hit is the absolute stones. And so this pairs perfectly pre-chain attack and post-chain attack, which is why you want to play 4 of it, because you always want to see the card. And so the way I'd played this deck and the reason why I was able to get so advantage against my opponents, and I honestly think is what made the difference between me piloting this deck versus somebody else, is I'd always set up my chain attack where the turn prior I foreseeing hit them, which I'm pretty sure other people do this, but I foreseeing hit them. And then looking at their information, I try and pick cards that position them. So I take those out of their hands because I want to position them to overextend on their turn, whether it be overcommitting cards to the battlefield, whether it be overcommitting and attacking me a bunch. But I just basically want to take 2 cards out of their hand and force them on their turn to come at me, because by this point I'm starting to intentionally spend resources unbeknownst to them while trying to find my chain Zeno pieces. So now I get to the max value of a chain attack Zeno. So I foreseeing hit them, take the 2 cards, boom. It goes to their turn. A lot of times, I pressure them on my turn, get them to play some combo Hans, and then I get them to start swinging with everything. I'm starting to, Sensu Bean, staying alive, and I'm trying to get everything, just I want them to try and match as much advantage as possible before I chain Zeno. So I want them to just be being aggressive and drawing cards and playing battle cards and committing and just being there. And just playing their boost attacks, playing their unbreakables. So when it gets back to my turn and I chain Zeno, I have very minimal resources in hands aside from chain Zeno, maybe one or two other cards, and then I chain Zeno, do a full reset. My life, I always keep it at 4. There's very few times throughout the course of the tournament where I ever got past 4 life against somebody. If they got me past 4, it was because it was my choice. It was never theirs, or it was games I lost, which only happened in 2 different rounds of the tournament. So making sure that you do that, protect your life total, because I'd always try to put them to 3 or 2, pressure them before I chain Zeno. So then I chain Zeno, get full value, and then now I get to swing with my leader, draw the extra card, swing with my Zeno, and then my chain Zenos were such value because it's like, when you draw back into your foreseeing hit or you draw back into your Kefla, like you're set up to win the game, like because that's all you need is just to follow up with a foreseeing hit or a Kefla, your opponent can handle it. 4 Pride and Justice Topo, my negates, I ran 7 negates, I ran 4 Topo, 3 Whis Coercion. This felt like the right split. There are times where I think maybe having the 4th Whis Coercion on the board would have been correct. And honestly, when I go over my sideboard and I go over the things that I would change about it, I'll let you know. But in general, 4 Topos was the correct number for me. Anything less felt suboptimal. I know there were some people like Richard Zapp was playing 3 in his list, but me, the card's just so good and it's so scary to your opponent because if you ever leave up 2 red, they always have to play around it. There was one of my games against Marquise where basically I sold the entire time like I had the topo because it's like there was one in my energy because of off the flip, there was one in my grave, like my discard pile, so he could see it there, so he doesn't know if I have the topo, and so the entire time I'm just selling it. So when you have topo in your deck and you're playing 4, you always get to present the fact that you might have it, and at the same time, when you do have it, you get to just punish your opponent on the following turn because he's 20k, he's coming at your battle cards, so you swing at a 15k, they're forced to combo or negate, and then you pick up value because that's one less negate they can use on their leader, that's one less combo they can use on their leader as well. 4 Unbreakable Son Goku, Self-Explanatory. It's just your set, super combo 5 through 8. 3 Saiyan Onslaught Kefla. This is the namesake of the deck. Kefla mid-range. And so basically, whenever this card comes down, whenever it came down, my opponents, a lot of times, games were over quickly after because this card just puts in too much work. It swings first time, it comes 30k, draws a card. Swings a second time, becomes 35k, draws a card. I had one of my opponents ask me, it was one of the earlier rounds, I think it was round 3. He asked me why I was playing Kefla in the deck, and I just explained to him just how much value that this creates and what it allows me to do. Because I can pressure their leader, I can pressure the battle cards, and I'm gaining advantage throughout the entire time. And she's really hard to take down unless the opponent just plays hard removal. So in general, Kefla was the stones for me. Against Apes, this basically makes Apes a free win because once you play a Kefla and you just start turning it sideways, and they're forced to block, they're never going to be able to out combo you, or if they do out combo you, they're just wasting a ton of resources, so you're just going to be advantaged anyway. And so Keflin just helps you stay ahead in card advantage in that matchup and other matchups as well. 4 boost stack Piccolo, don't need to explain. 4 Raging Spirits on Gohan, this is the correct number. For playing an SS3 leader deck, you should play 4 Raging Spirits on Gohans. 3 Zeno, I already explained why I did the 3-3 split as opposed to 4-2. 2 Scientist Fu. This was my Overwhelm card of choice. A lot of people were kicking around the idea of playing Fu Shrouded Mystery. The thing is Fu Shrouded Mystery is less good when people are aware of it. The card is great, but honestly, I just wanted to have something that could catch me up or give me overwhelming advantage in games, and Scientist Fu is that card. It's the best Overwhelm card in the game. 4 Legendary Flute. Uh, this I go back and forth on this, but I played 4 for consistency's sake. I do think that main deck 3 could be more correct, but at the same time, this card provided a lot of value for me in the course of the day, whether it be swinging with my burst attack, drawing 2, fluting it back to hand, drawing another, or my Raging Spirits and Gohans, fluting those back and drawing a card, or if I needed to awaken with Intensifying Power Trunks, Legendary Flute provided that work. But there were some times in games, like it happened in my game 3 against Marquise, in which I lost, where I ripped flutes out of my life, which if those could have been any other card, I would have had a chance at being able to survive and win that game, but my hand was 2 Zenos, 2 flutes, and then just 4 cards to combo with, and then he comboed like his entire deck. So like because he just hoid into unbreakable to unyielding, so it was disgusting. For Sensu Bean, it's a Sensu Bean format. You should continue to play Sensu Bean. Sensu Bean is even more important as we move forward, especially when you look at the Storm decks like the Goten based one with BCC Goten. If you bean on that turn, the opponent can't go off, and if they do want to go off, they have to combo cards additionally, so just play 4 bean. 3 Weeze Coercion. Like I said, this could have been 4, but I really liked 3 in game 1. I could see siding a 4th, but in general, I really liked playing 3 Weeze Coercions in the main deck. So my sideboard, I played 2 Bodyguard Legic, 2 Burst Attack Sun Gohan. So the Legics and the Sun Gohans came in any deck, like against any matchup that was aggro or any deck that was like low to the ground. And so a lot of the times these would come in against Hirudegarn, and all I do simply is just take out the 4 Intensifying Power Trunks, put in the 2 Legics, put in the 2 Burst Attack Sun Gohans. I would take out my 3 Keflas because I need to be able to make room for more things. So I would then put in the 2 Digging Deep Vegetas to give myself some way of awakening just in case they ever try and stall me at 5, and then 1 Chain Attack Trunks to put myself at the full 4 because I need to see it more often, and now since I have more targets with Burst Attack, it allows me to be lower to the ground. And so overall what I did in that game was just reduce the size of my curve, and then I kept the Scientist Fuse in that matchup. 2 Furthering Destruction Champas and 2 Digging Deeps. I really like these in SS3 mirrors. Again, what I would do, just straight up pull out the 4 Intensifying Power Trunks, put in 2 Digging Deeps, put into Furthering Destruction Champas, go from there. And then, of course, I would then trim 1 Flute, 1 Sensu Bean to put in a Chain Attack Trunks, and then I would put in something like put in the Chain Attack Trunks, put in a Mafuba at that point, and then I would then cut my 2 Scientist Fu for Dimension Banisher Fus in matchups where removal was relevant. And then also, there were some matchups where I'd find space for an additional Mafuba. 2 Mafubas, this came into play whenever I placed any deck that was barrier-based, any deck that had Apes, or any deck that was like Mono Blue running Bergamo. So essentially what they'd do, they'd swing, you Mafuba, and then now the thing that they thought was going to be their win condition no longer works. I think I should have sided in additional negates like Mafuba in the matchup against Hirudegarn, because there were times where I think if I would have just opened with a Mafuba and they would have swung with their Kaba on turn 1 and I Mafuba it, I know it sounds crazy, but I would have essentially forced them to not be able to flute that turn and in their turn. So I think that was one thing if I could go back in those matchups. Also siding in the burst attacks and siding in the Legics, I'd probably side in the Mafubas as well. 2 Dragon Fist SS3 Son Goku. So the merits of this card, like this card is great. Dragon Fist is a great card in general, but honestly, and I learned this from the previous day because I played Blue Yellow and Blue Yellow plays Dragon Fist. I never cast Dragon Fist on that day. As good as that card is, I never ever cast it. Games don't go that long. And if they do, there's a problem. So this is a card I never sided in a single time, even against Apes. Apes against this deck is basically free. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just being as honest as possible. So Dragon Fist isn't even necessary in that matchup. So I honestly wish this could have been a 4th Coercion and then probably something else, maybe an extra Overrealm card or, oh, actually, no, a 4th Coercion and a 3rd Mafuba. I think that would have been passable. So I really wish that I wouldn't have played Dragon Fist in the sideboard. And that may have been the crux of, the losses that I had, not playing the additional negates. Or those could have been Vados assistances, which may have been an even better call. Just continue to load up on negates. So if I play against the aggro matchup. So I think that was one thing that probably led to me losing to Hirudegarn, was just not having enough sideboard. I knew the matchup really well, but I just think that I missed the opportunity there with having the extra slots for the negates. Two-dimensional Banisher Fu. This is just coming in strictly for matchups where removal is necessary. So I would side out the two Scientist Fu for dimensional banishers. And we're good to go. Things you will notice about my sideboard. There is no Cronoa. And there's a reason why. So number one, even if Shigesh would have been a factor, even if veggies would have been a factor, I do think that this deck is good enough to handle that matchup without needing Cronoa. And I'd rather hedge against the fact that people aren't going to show up with a deck that just auto loses to a singular card post board. And so I hedged against that, and I wanted to just make myself better against Mirrors and Herudegarn. And then you'll see no minus Killy Zone. Major reason why. I don't think Bloodlust is a factor, and even if it is, it's a -1 for them. A lot of my cards just have static effects, aside for stuff like Foreseeing Hit and Chain Attack, so it's not even really a big deal if one doesn't resolve. I'm not really too concerned about it, and a lot of times with your energy advantage against those decks and your life advantage, you're not going to have to worry about it, because you're just always going to be able to draw extra cards with your super combos and your Raging Spirits and Gohans and your Flutes, and so it wasn't an issue. And then Crusher Ball, testing against Crusher Ball with Foreseeing Hit, it doesn't matter if they Crusher Ball you, the effect is going to go off. You're going to take away the tempo for their turn. And so I just didn't feel like those cards were necessary in the board. So this is the deck that I played. So one thing I want to go over for you guys is the Herudegarn matchup, and something that's really interesting that a lot of people don't know. And so when I played against Trey and Marquise, they were really surprised about my matchup knowledge because I won the dice rolls in those matchups, and that was really upsetting to me because I don't want to win the dice roll. You actually never want to go first if you're playing SS3 against Herudegarn. You'd always rather go second. And it sounds crazy, but honestly, it's just something as simple as drawing the extra card on the first turn versus not drawing the extra card, and being able to attack on the first turn versus being able to not attack on the first turn. So if you go first, let's just do some maths here. So I go first. I neg 1, so I go to 5 cards in hand. I put 2 over. So if they start off with an Intensifying Power Trunks and swing at me, I either have to negate it or I have to combo card, which is going to be a -1 or just a 0 if I do an Unbreakable, and I'm still going to be at 5 cards. Whereas now, think about it, they went from 6 to 7, 6 charge, 5 play Intensifying Power, swing with Intensifying Power, they take a life, go back up to 6. So now, if I have to give up a card, I'm down to 4 cards in hand, or I'm being crit for the life. So they do that. They now swing with Leader. They discard a Minotia. They draw 2. So they go from 6 to 5, back to 7, go get a Herudegarn the Wanderer. They're up to 8 cards in hand versus my 5 or 4. And now I either have to choose to take the life, or I have to defend it. So that's another card that I have to spend. If they flute, they play an Unyielding. They go -7. They untap, they can flute the Trunks back, they can replay the Trunks, and then now again, you're seeing the trend here. You're having to defend your life total, and you don't have resources to be able to do so, and so those games end a lot faster than if you're on the draw. If you're going second, you draw the extra card, and that matters, and you're able to defend your life more effectively, and then post-sideboard, like I stated, you need burst attacks, so you continue to defend yourself, and then draw more cards in your turns, and so that was a key. That's why, like, game 2, I always felt like I was more advantaged in game 2 than I was in game 1, because I would lose game 1 because I was on the play because I won the dice roll, but game 2 I'd be on the draw, and those matchups were a lot more favorable for myself. So just tip for you guys going into this weekend or going to your locals this week, if you're playing SS3 and you're playing this deck specifically, this configuration, or changed up a little bit, and you're playing into Herudegarn, you want to go second in that matchup. Like, because you need to see the extra card. The extra card really does matter, and you're always ahead on energy anyway, so it doesn't even matter if you go first. I mean, the only difference is you start at, 2 energy ahead of them as opposed to 1, but the 1 energy ahead is always enough. So I always prefer going second in that matchup, so go ahead and test that out. Let me know how that works, and then just, focus on playing that matchup as best as you possibly can, playing really tight, defending your life total, and just trying to drag the game out long enough to where when you do an impactful Zeno, it's going to help you, or when you play a hit, it's going to be something that wins the game for you. So that is a little bit of insight into that matchup there. I do think that Blue-Red Herudegarn is the best deck in the format post going into Draft Box weekend, which now we have Philly and Otakon. And so Draft Box is going to be a big thing affecting that event. And I think, some simple predictions, not really anything bold. I do think you're going to see Vegito decks a lot. That's a card that's already being talked about by the masses. And so trying to figure out the best spot for that deck is going to be huge. I do think that You're going to see a lot of mono blue decks because of the fact that you can play Bergamo and Vegito together. I think blue green's going to be a thing. I think you're just going to have so many different decks that are just trying to like spam that card because of how good it is. Chain Zeno is still going to be an interaction that's going to be, defining the format itself. So I think you need to be prepared for that. I'm excited to see what the Vegeta leader does because I think that he has a ton of potential with being able to use his energy as like a tutor of sorts, as well as the fact that he can play additional cards on turns by restanding energy. He's an untapped 2 leader, and then his front side can pressure the opponent because it's a 15k as long as you have an energy that's Universe 7. And so he's a 15k and draws a card. So I think that leader, I hopefully sees play this weekend. I hope people have gotten testing in, but in general, Draftbox is incredibly hype, and so this past weekend at GenCon was absolutely amazing, and I'm excited to see where the format goes, where the game goes. But as you guys know, I'm incredibly thankful for everything you guys do to support me, and I appreciate the follows, I appreciate the subs on Patreon, and I'm going to be getting back to writing daily articles this week. I'm apologize again for not doing so this past week, except for once I left for Gen Con, I was kind of just like in the zone, only focusing on just trying to generate results for you guys and getting that monkey off my back, getting that top cut. There's people that have referenced me as an amazing player. There's people that have referenced me, some people think of me as like one of the best players in the game. Scott Dashy was one of those people who was nice enough to say that in person, and that meant a lot. And it was just really nice to get that, to generate that result that kind of puts me in a different conversation, because up until now it was just a matter of, well, the guy's got a great brain for theory and he knows how to build decks and he can talk about the game all day, but can he generate results? And so this tournament showed that if I put my mind to it, if I play the right deck for me and my play style, and I read the event correctly, that I can perform, and I look to continue to do so. And we got Nationals, baby. Blake Rivera, love you, man. But anyway, thank you guys so much for everything that you do for me, as well as thank you to the wonderful community of the Dragon Ball Super card game for just being awesome and being so communicative and giving me all the feedback that I could possibly ask for ever, and just continue to support, and then just having great conversations. And then thank you everyone who came to Gen Con. Thank you ARG for putting on a great event, with a great judge staff that were paying attention to detail. And I think overall it was a really successful weekend for the Dragon Ball Super card game, and I'm super excited about the future of this game. Set 5 looks incredible, and I think we're in a really good spot. I think the metagame is going to change with the draft box. I do think that, we're going to see some shifts based off of changes that happen to different leaders that are in the format that are problems, or different cards that are problems. But overall, the game is great, the game is growing, and thank you guys so much again for everything you do. I'm going to put my link down in the Patreon there, so you guys want to sub to that, you can. And then I'll be doing my first raffle here coming up soon, so you guys on the Patreon will be able to do that. I'm either doing a deck from the channel, or I'll be doing something like the Ultimate Box. So I might be giving away an Ultimate Box, which I think that'll be the thing I'm doing. So pay attention for that. I'll be doing that probably within my next video or so. But anyway, thank you guys so much for everything. Thank you for subscribing. We're almost at 2,000 subs, which is insane on YouTube. And it's been all within like the past 30 days. And just, I've been on this content grind and got some great advice from DBS Dad, who I met in person. Shout out to Gabriel Alonso. He's for real. He's an amazing player. He's super intelligent, wonderful to talk to. He gave me some great advice on, my channel, as well as the Patreon that I was putting out. He gave me some amazing feedback, and he generated some pretty solid results for himself. It was his first major event, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here. He'll be getting his nationals invites incredibly soon. But anyway, thank you guys again so much for everything. I appreciate you and all you do for me, and I hope that you know that Scrub Fam is best fam. Bye!